Thank you so much for joining Radek today, and thank you joining for the audience today for our event today under the topic Agile you hate, Agile you need. I'm not sure what we think about that actually, but we're going to find out and discuss this in 25 minutes with the guest that we have today, which is Radoslaw Orszewski. Welcome, Radek. And maybe
Welcome,
just
everyone.
very short, Radek. I know that you are the Agile ninja, right? In some ways, at least. I'm not sure if I can say it like this. And that you have a lot of experience with Agile and Lean as a coach, for example. Quite some years, actually. And I'm very curious about our talk, but maybe you want to introduce yourself as well to get started, actually.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Indeed, I decided to call myself ninja because I believe what I do professionally should be having an impact, but shouldn't be playing the first rock star on stage, right? So we would like to see changes happening in organizations, but not being in the spotlight. Rather, I would say. And enabling the impact or change to happen. What I do professionally, like you said, in a coaching, mentoring, or training format, I try to support different organizations in, most of all, becoming more adaptive and more agile.
Yeah. And then maybe just for me, as someone who knows a bit about Agile, but is not an expert in any ways, can you maybe just tell me what Agile is? I'm not sure if there's a simple way to phrase it, but what do I need to think about, actually? What are we even talking about?
Okay, so you are right. Probably today, everyone in the industry already heard about it. People have different experiences or biases or opinions. So rather, instead of telling you or answering all of our viewers here what Agile is, I will answer what Agile should be. So imagine that we are all dealing with complexity and uncertainty. So we try to build different products. We try to find solutions for many problems that we see in the market. And we can do it in many different ways. Some of these ways can be very costly. Some of these ways can be very time-consuming. Can also be done in a very dangerous way. So we can, I would say, accumulate risks or accumulate assumptions about what customer wants or needs and what is going to be beneficial for us also economically. We know from our everyday lives that sometimes we see the products which, despite great names or brands or money behind them, are awful failures, right? And I would say the whole Agile movement is behind how to avoid such fails and how to go out of the, let's just say, bubble of our imaginations or our assumptions how to build the product. Go to market, go to the customers and find the sometimes quickest, sometimes cheaper, sometimes more, let's just say, tailored to customer needs solutions. And of course, this is at the, let's just say, philosophy level definition. We know that in practice, it means many different things, many different practices for organizations of different sizes.
Yeah. And Radek, you said specifically at the beginning what Agile should be, right? So I assume that means that very often it is not that, or organizations have their own way with it, or what did you mean with that? Is it often like differently used or maybe misused?
That was a kind of provoking statement because I believe in times of not cheap money, when we look at the costs and we look at the headcount and we look at many other things, it is very easy to blame something that everyone is talking about. And I think it's no secret that this is probably behind why we named this conversation today this way. Because many people will say, oh, Agile, we've been doing that, we tried that, it was costly, it was having a lot of hassle with it, and it didn't bring any benefit. The problem is that, many very simplistic ways of thinking can be harmfully called Agile. And of course, they are not going to bring the benefits that I described in what Agile should bring. And therefore, I believe, maybe this time of, some kind of correction on the market or crisis, even some people would say, this is also the moment to validate what is actually bringing value to us and what we should do more of, and what was just a very superficial, naming convention that we used for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Because maybe from my understanding as well, Agile was meant to be done in small teams, if I'm correct, or maybe that is a misunderstanding. Maybe you can help me with that. So what happens actually, because these days companies are growing bigger often, right? I think development teams have grown bigger in the last 20 years, probably. The world has gotten a lot more complex, even though it was complex back then. So does it still work as well for bigger companies or bigger teams or bigger product developments even?
Good point here. Well, yes, you're right. Originally, we were hearing and trying to implement Agile in just a team-focused approach. But we know that big organizations having multiple different areas, not only product development, but also marketing or HR or legal or whatever else, are basically trying to make it much harder to accomplish everything in one team. And of course, now we have the whole spectrum of solutions that we can perceive as Agile. Because, of course, if you are still trying to deliver product within a small team or small organization, and you are capable of really delivering everything or as much as possible as a small team, that's great. If you are in a bigger organization, there is a risk that this team delivering value will be, let's just say, insulated from the market or customers. And this is already dangerous. And we see that some big organizations are struggling with it, and they create some layers of insulation between the market and the teams. And this is quite dangerous. So I don't think if you work in a big organization, you definitely cannot have access to market, to the real feedback. On the other hand, we need to say, like you said, in the 80s or 90s, the world was already quite complex, but complexity from the tech stack or from different aspects which are included today in the product development has vastly grown, right? So today, it's really hard to say that, team of 7 to 9 people can have all the skill set to do everything behind a huge product for multiple markets, for multiple legal regulations, now including the most modern aspects of technology like machine learning or AI or whatever. So we say we need to be aware that the organization, which is bigger but would like to be agile, should think about healthy interactions between the teams. I have my biased look at it because professionally I'm a master in biotechnology, so I like to look at organizations as biochemical or natural beings, and we need the right interactions between the teams.
And how do you do that? Maybe that's the question, right? Or how do you start it? Or maybe it's too much in depth, but maybe you can give us like a small glimpse of how that actually works.
Yeah. So if you, again, what is and what should be agile is that we should understand that different functions can be, let's just say, delivered within organizations differently. Just like our organisms, you or me, we are made of cells, but cells are forming organs and tissues. The same we could see in the organizations, right? So we have some frameworks which are saying that they are scaling agile, but they are having a very mechanistic look at organizations. So it's rather not like a living being, but like a big machinery. And I think that's dangerous because that is based on many assumptions that we can predict the timelines, that we can reduce uncertainty, but also reduce, unfortunately, innovation, right? The natural evolution of living beings is happening by trial and error to a certain degree. So I think we should rather design our organizations into, I would say, flexible and evolving interactions. If we would like to recommend anything, the type of interactions that I am very much into and I see it beneficial is called team topologies. So we say, okay, what kind of teams we have, what kind of teams we will need in the future, and how the interactions from existing should evolve in the future.
You said something about reducing uncertainty, right? And maybe that's a question also with a bias for me, but the world has gotten a lot more complex, like we said before, right? There's so much more uncertainty, actually, I think, than before, more and more. Could that be one of the reasons why Agile is being questioned more as well? Is it like a need for control for companies, maybe back again, maybe afraid to let things go, maybe to get some kind of structure in all this uncertainty, or how do you see that?
So I'll start maybe with this angle that there's this saying, and I think many of us have seen it in our everyday life. In uncertain, dangerous times, we very often fall back to our old habits, to our system one thinking, as Daniel Kahneman would say. Sadly, the Nobel Prize laureate who just passed away a few weeks ago. We have the system one, which is our habits, our instincts, and we have system two, which requires a lot of energy to think over what we would like to do. And I would say one of the reasons that we see, Agile as a kind of scapegoat is that if it's not something within our DNA, we reject it and we fall back to old habits, old ways of working. On the other hand, if we step away from Agile approach, we basically go into this fake certainty or our invisible assumptions area, where we think what is best for customer, when we think what is good for our business, but there are like many things in our blind spots, and that's very dangerous.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah, and if I go back, let's say I go back into the customer's position, right? So I'm a company. I need something. I need some development. Do I have any real alternatives to Agile? Maybe that's a question, right? So I'm new. I'm not sure what I need to do actually, right? I have this problem. I need a team, or my team needs to do a certain thing. What options do I actually have? Are there viable Agile options in your opinion, or?
That's interesting, because I guess you mentioned waterfall in the beginning of our conversation. That of course this is what is also still in the market. If you ask people, is it really possible that we do first all kind of design, all type of design, and then all type of development and all type of testing, etc.? I mean, this is a very, again, simplistic approach, which I haven't seen in action, even in organizations which do call themselves working in a traditional cascade or waterfall, if you like, way of working. So I would say, even if organization thinks that it works this way, I mean, what is organization thinking? But okay, that's a different topic. What is truly happening is that people are going, I would say, around the processes which are not flexible, and they try to do the work in a smarter way anyway. The problem is that if we think that we work one way and we see that some of our people are working differently, then we have this kind of gap, this kind of delta, which is there. So I would say what is really important for organizations is to embrace the fact that the change is there, that it's going to be required, that we cannot plan for months or years working in isolation and coming with the perfect solution the first time that we enter market.
Yeah, so I think you said basically even when there's not an agile way of working, right? Even if there's a cascade of waterfall, people find their own ways basically to work around it if they need to. And that might very well be in a somewhat agile way, correct?
Yeah, because we see that if there's something blocking us from flow of work, flow of information, people very often try to find some kind of workarounds. The problem is that not all of these workarounds which people create, on their own, are the right ones. So we would rather see the process and processes and way of working supporting this type of behavior. When someone sees that, okay, I cannot work this way, I don't think I'm working on the right way, how we could, empower people to say it, to contribute to the way that we work.
Yeah, because when people don't have a framework and they find their own ways of working, they have to figure it out again and again.
Reinventing the wheel.
Reinvent the wheel. And I assume not that people are not smart enough, right? But I think it's very difficult to invent something that works really well.
Yeah, there's also interesting aspect here that we have this, halo effect. So I started saying what I believe I do, that I help organization. I do it. I try to do it in this ninja way. Sometimes people of our profession are meeting people completely outside of our bubble, and we need to explain someone, I don't know, at a grill, a barbecue evening, what is that we do. And there's very often this kind of surprise moment when we explain people that I help organization of professionals to manage and organize their work, and then people saying like, how come? Don't they know how to work? And and this is funny because we hire super skilled developers, we hire, I don't know, designers, whoever is in your profession, and we have this kind of imagination that if they are professionals in this skill that we hire them for, they are automatically skilled in not only managing their own work, but also the work of the team or bigger structure in an organization. And that's very often, again, a fake assumption.
Yeah, very interesting and very true as well, I think. Mm-hmm. Maybe one more question. So I think there might be concerns about Agile from some people nevertheless, right? Mm-hmm. Can you maybe share some of the concerns you encounter sometimes, or are some of them valid even, or do you not encounter many concerns? Maybe just out of curiosity.
No, of course I do, and I also believe like we shouldn't hide away from answering these concerns or questions. For me, the fact that the manifesto for agile software development created decades ago is not fully applicable to all scales of enterprises that we have or initiatives, because the complexity of technology changes, because the way we work changes, like working remotely, working in different cultures, etc. And I think for last decades we see some patterns, like agile practices are like strictly connected to certain roles, that we need to have a full-time agile person, that if we want to do agile, we need to do everything from framework X or method Y. I believe we are, and I'm happy for it, representing this this community, that we go beyond this kind of, sorry to say it, religious-like approach, right? So we go into what is pragmatic, what is really fitting not only this organization that wants to go agile, but this organization that want to go agile at a given moment. Because maturity of organizations, also the situation in the markets may require, there's the saying, like there's like situational leadership. I believe we also require situational agility, right? It's going to be something different in terms of good economy and in terms of looking at every single penny that you spend.
Yeah. So not being too religiously about everything, but adapting depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So I am a customer or someone who might be interested in Agile or using it in my team. Is it expensive to do it? Is it like, how do I start? Like, do I need to hire a lot of people? Do I need to hire an agency for it? Is it good if I get support from a coach? How does that work actually?
That's interesting. And again, I would say cost is something that many entrepreneurs or companies are having in mind. Many initiatives are, let's just say, managed by an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And of course, we very often see these additional costs related to working in agile way of working, because it's not only about the hiring an agile coach or a scrum master, but it's a cost of going to customers and doing interviews and producing multiple prototypes or wireframes to decide which design that we go into. And this is really tricky because this is the immediate cost, and the benefit of it is usually coming at the longer perspective. And many organizations and many people, probably including ourselves, are very often short-time oriented, right? So give me a solution which is going to work now and which is going to guarantee, again, this avoidance of a certain uncertainty. Give me the solution now. This is tricky, and I need to say probably it requires some explanation by coaching, by mentoring, by referring maybe to successful cases from similar enterprises or initiatives. where we see that, well, initially it was maybe a little bit more uncertain, a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, it really paid off. In defense of it, I would say, as customers, all of us in real life, we very often know when we encounter the product which wasn't done in the agile way. I mean, every time you go to, I don't know, bank branch and they say, oh, I cannot do it because this application doesn't allow me to, you know, if you come from this bubble, right, that someone designed it without interacting with people who are gonna in the end use it, right? If you feel like what do I do wrong, I don't know, in the mobile app interface, right, and say, well, probably it's not about you, probably it's about, you know, building this in isolation and imagining that doing it quickly without interaction with customers, it's going to be okay. Well, it is cheaper, but is it okay?
But still, I can imagine that some companies might have this restriction, right? Or somehow from their bosses, maybe, or their managers, or some other department, right? That still says we need something now and quickly. We don't have time to wait for results, right? So how do we best tackle that then? Is there something you can do quickly or some results you can show quickly in Agile, or how does that work?
Well, I believe in organizations like this, especially even internally, we usually have a lot of past historical examples when we rushed for a solution and it wasn't the right way to do it. So, so of course, if you have internal context, maybe it's good to refer to something like this. But here we come to, I would say, more cultural aspect of it. What people are rewarded for, what is the promoted behavior in the organization? Because many organizations are focused on, as we call it, just output. So how many features are we going to have on production? While what actually matters in the world of agility is outcome. So what kind of new experience or what kind of new opportunity we have enabled for both customer and business? What kind of impact we have? I think this is something that requires what many people call an agile mindset. And I would say it is necessary, but we need to have the right balance of the mindset and education at this level, but also tools and processes supporting how to do it. Because people have rights not to know how to do it.
Well, almost at the end of our talk, and I want to go back to the title actually of our talk, right? It's Agile you hate, Agile you need. In the preparation of our interview, I also read some articles, right? The end of Agile, the death of Agile. I didn't want to bring it in as well, right? But I think the conclusion is more that there's no real other viable option, if I'm correct. Is that right?
No, you're perfectly right. In the fast changing world, I don't think we can, even the most, I don't know, rich companies having lots of cash flow can afford themselves to completely ignore markets and uncertainty. And this is the only way to do it if we're going to survive, especially in the longer run.
Perfect. Yeah. I have some very nice takeaways from our talk. Very interesting, very eye-opening as well. So Radek, as we are at the end of our time, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I feel like I'm not an agile ninja yet, but I am a little bit like moving towards maybe also becoming an agile ninja.
Remember, it's the journey. It's not the target. It's not a single point.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining, Radek.
Thank you very much.
For the audience, I have another event that will be shared in the resources section, actually, where you can find it. You can click there now and see when the next meeting will happen. It will be another talk, actually. I will be the host again, and I'm very happy to see all of you there if you can join. Thank you one more last time, Radek. It was great seeing you, and thank everyone for watching today. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.